Yasis, kalispera. Good afternoon, my dear friends. I'm Elena, and you're watching Made with Yiayia. Today, I'm going to show you a very delicious Greek soup. It's super cold outside, and it's always nice to have something warm and hearty. We call it in Greek, Youvarlakia. I know, it's a mouthful. What it is little hamburgers. I make them small, so mini hamburgers. My kids grew up calling it hamburger soup. So I'm gonna go grab all my ingredients and let's get this delicious soup started. Oppa! For this recipe, I actually use my big pot, as you can see over there. So in it, so I could get the measurements, I put about 16 cups of water. So you need a nice big pot, okay? First, what we start to do, as you know, if you've watched any of my YouTube cooking recipes, I always like to incorporate as much of the spices in one thing and then add it, like for example, to the meat, or add it to the soup, or add it to the salad. So the first thing we're going to do is actually grate 2 onions, only because they're smaller. If you have a bigger one, you would use 1, okay? Those were some hot onions. Kind of burn the eyes, but I've heard this kind of tier is actually really good for the eyes. So some onions do let out some juice also, and you don't want it in the hamburger part, it'll make it too mushy. But I don't want to lose the flavor either. So when you do have a little bit, as you can see there's a little bit there, I like to actually put it in the juice because I don't want to lose that delicious flavor, right? So for our spices, we have a half a tablespoon of salt, 1 full tablespoon of, yes, my delicious dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and half a teaspoon of the ground pepper, okay? So we just stir that up a little bit in with our onion. Now when we have our spices all nicely blended, we add about a pound of ground beef and 1 cup of rice. So you just mix everything together. My favorite for rice is the actual regular long grain rice. I personally have never tried any other rice when it comes to a lot of my soups that do have a rice blend. And it always turns perfect. So just the long grain rice is what I always like to use. In the meantime, I turned on my burner so the water that I have in there can come to a boil. And we're gonna start making our little balls. I like them small. Some traditional Greek actually make them like super big. But we've always liked them small so you can kind of like scoop one up and enjoy it with your soup. Almost done. So as you can see, we got a lot of little meatballs. Now I'm gonna head over to the boiling water and I'll show you what we're gonna do over there. So I always like to add some flavor to the actual water too. So to it I'm adding 2 teaspoons of salt and 1 teaspoon of ground pepper. Whoop-a! And 1/8, a little over 1/8 of a cup of olive oil. There we go. Now we're slowly going to add our meatballs. You want to watch they don't splash up on you because you will get burned. So I kind of pick a side and slowly just add them one at a time. See this splashing a little bit. I'll try and put the next ones right on top of the pre-existing ones. Create a little mountain almost so that way it won't splash as much. Just give it one little stir to loosen them all up. Once it comes back to a boil, we're gonna let these boil on their own for about 10 minutes. I like the meat to cook a little bit before I add the next ingredients. Our mini hamburgers have been boiling for 10 minutes. You can see that the rice is starting to plump out a little bit on each one. Now we're going to add another cup of rice to the actual soup. And I like to add the juice of 1 lemon. There'll be one more process with a little bit more lemons near the end. Boil for the next 20 minutes so the rice can set. We're going to put it on a medium-low setting. And then we'll do our final step to this delicious Youvarlakia. We are halfway there. 10 more minutes for the rice to plump up on the medium-low setting. In the process, we can start getting ready what's going to cause that nice white, creamy, lemony flavor. So I have 2 eggs. What we're going to do is beat them. So it's nice and frothy, as you can see. I'm going to add now the juice of 2 whole lemons. And we're just going to continue beating it all together. Then I'm going to show you how we're actually going to incorporate it into our soup. I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit till our soup is ready. And then we're going to show you the next step. It's nice to have the eggs at room temperature and the lemons at room temperature. So that's why I like to pull them out a little bit before. And then once you actually blend them in and it makes this nice frothiness, it'll give the soup a delicious extra boost of creaminess too. Not just a delicious flavor, but it makes it. Ooh, look at that. Our rice has cooked. Now we can incorporate our egg and lemon. So of course, we do not want to scramble the eggs. That's why we have it in a bigger bowl, and now we're slowly going to take the juice from the soup and incorporate it in while we're whisking it. That way, we have the delicious creaminess and lemoniness, but we won't have scrambled eggs in our soup. As you can see, the froth is still beautiful here from whisking it before. Once we fill this bowl, about halfway up I want to say, then you know for sure that this boiling heat hasn't affected the eggs to make it scrambled. Now we are going to add it to the soup. Look at that. Look at that creaminess. Right away it makes a difference. So I like to turn it on one more time now. So you want to watch it because I have it on high. So I just need it to do a quick boil. That's a step I've always done. The egg is basically cooked, but it's just for my own thing. I've always done it when I always have any type of egg and lemon base in a soup. I like to give it one more boil just to make sure it's completely cooked in the soup and there's no raw egg. Usually takes about a minute. As you can see, it's starting to bubble up. Now we're going to let it sit for around 15 minutes with the lid on. Our delicious soup is ready! Aren't you excited to try it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I got my cute little taster here.
Mm-hmm.
But I must say, I think everything I make is your favorites, right? That's my girl. All right. Look at this. So creamy. Wow. Absolutely amazing. Let's see. Of course, it's soup. If you want to add a little more salt after you taste it, a little more lemon. Sometimes lemons are more tart. Sometimes, you know, they're not as tart. So if you need to add anything to it after you do your own little tasting when you make it, these are things that we can't control, right? Plus our taste buds are all different. But this is the measurement that we love. That's absolutely perfect. I like to put a little bit of fresh ground pepper on it. Okay, let's give it a try. Creamy, lemony, burst of flavors. So delicious. What do you think?
Very, very good.
We've got our fresh bread there. We're gonna cut it up, fill our bowls, get the family together and enjoy this delicious soup. Please, my dear friends, give it a try. Try this simple recipe. Your family will love it. But for now, you've been watching Made with Yiayia. Oppa!